Hey everyone, and welcome back to Create Above and Beyond. Let's jump into the video. Once again, a little bit of a disclaimer. There's still an echo in the room. I haven't had a chance to go out and buy some rugs and stuff like that to kind of not reflect the sound waves. So I apologize for that. I've added some light background music. Hopefully that kind of helps with the audio. So let me know in the comments if that's working. But let's jump into this. So thank you, Rage Plays Games, or Mr. Rage. I'll have him linked in the description because he helped me out in the comments as well as a bunch of other guys inside of Discord and YouTube and stuff like that. We got the energetic infuser up and running for us. So essentially all we had to do was add a brass funnel, which is exactly what I was doing, with a filter, which I can pick up, which has a fluxomagnet that's fully charged with the respect data basically clicked on, which I'm surprised I didn't think of considering I've made videos about this, but here we are. And all that does is you can see I have an uncharged fluxomagnet. I throw it in, it's gonna go ahead and get charged, and as soon as it charges up, it'll go out and go into the system so that we can actually fully process basically everything that we need. So that means that this section is now up and running for us. I've also done a little bit of an adjustment over here. This was where we had our washing station. We had a basin pressing sand into sandstone. Did a little bit of a change here where we have sand now going into a fluid encapsulator, which is just ironically run out of water here. Once it goes ahead and processes, it falls down here, turns to sand balls, goes across here, and continues the system normally. Now, I just have a tank, which I realize I've put in the wrong direction, filling with water, and then once I fill that with water, it goes into our fluid encapsulator. So let me go ahead and do that really quick. Well, we can see that the machine is working now, considering I have a line of sand balls lined up here. But all I did was just pump water via an item drain mechanical pump to a tank, just as a storage center, so I can store a lot of water here, and then that pumps into our fluid encapsulator and processes the sand to balls of sand. This is just backed up because we haven't processed these guys in quite some time, but that's okay. We should be actually good to go as soon as this starts processing. So for the rest of this episode, we're going to go ahead and try to finish chapter 4. Hopefully it's not that difficult. We'll kind of find out. So to begin, it looks like we're gonna have to deal with this whole entire snow section, and then that will be added to our silicon compounds. Then that's gonna turn into printed silicon. Printed silicon? Yes, which is all into AE systems and things like that. And then at the very end, we should have an ME controller, which allows us to have an ME system all up and running. So kind of ambitious, but we'll see what we can do. So let's dive into this. All right, it's been a minute. I basically built the whole snow section because a lot of it is very repetitive compared to what we did in the last episode. But I still want to walk through it, so you can skip this part via the timestamps if you really want to. But to start off, we need a way of generating snowballs, which you can see we're doing with a blast chiller with a ball cast water, and then we have lava as the way of supplying it. It's just creating a bunch of snowballs constantly, and that is being outputted into an area where we have our minecart with a hopper basically up and running, which it looks like somehow I think I've run into this. There you go. Should be up and running now. I think I bumped into it when I was trying to fool around with the machines, but basically it's going into our hopper, exact same system that we've used before. Snowballs, if they get blasted with this laser beam, and it has this Entropy Manipulator inside, it will turn into a Blizz Cube, which doesn't actually have that inside. So if it is just getting snowballs, I just have it outputting and throwing them into lava. Again, you could probably reuse them in the system, but you could see in how fast we're generating snowballs. So I didn't really care about excess. I said, you know what, might as well just throw them out. But this Entropy Manipulator, if it's in the system, will be placed into a charger and then outputted into here to be used in the system. Now, the first time that you need it charged, it takes forever to charge. So I will let you know there, but it usually, after it uses it once, it's like at 99% basically. So it takes about a second to fully recharge itself. So first time takes a while for it to charge, but then after that, we're pretty good. You can see right there, we just made a Blizz Cube. Blizz Cubes are now going ahead and being outputted into crushing wheels, which turns them into Blizz Powder. And I think I did exactly the same problem of not powering our mechanical press. So 1 second. There we go. So we could throw our Blizz Powder now into our basin. It should go ahead and press into, whoops, I missed it, into an ice charge, which is exactly what we're looking for because now we need our ice charges and our silicon compounds to come together inside of, here, we'll check that that's automated, inside of an induction smelter, and then that should create silicon, but I've not powered it, so one moment for that as well. There we go. As you can hear, it is up and running, and that has turned into silicon. Look at that. A whole lot of work for silicon, I must say. But that should now be fully automated, and we should be making a pretty good amount of this. Of course, our silicon compounds are pretty stacked at the moment, but this soon should go ahead and catch up for us. So now that we have all that complete, we are on to the final steps. The first thing is we're going to be making a circuit stamper. Basically, it says use deployers to create a circuit base out of silicon. The required press can be located at the center of Sky Stone Meteors, which we might have an inscriber silicon press possibly, because we did find this several episodes ago. So let's go find that. So we've actually never found the press that we're looking for. So we have an inscriber engineering press and we have an inscriber logic press, but it looks like we need an inscriber silicon press because that creates, of course, things with silicon. So we're going to have to go ahead and find some meteors around and go ahead and mine through them and go ahead and get that press. Also, I figured it's worth noting that we are missing one other one because we have engineering, logic, we're missing calculation, and then of course our silicon. So we might try to find the calculation one as well, because once we have all of those, we can work on actually doing like an ME system and things along those lines. Now, I did just find another one, but I figured that explaining on how I'm finding these would be kind of a good idea. So if you press your map, you can see I've explored a lot of these guys. If you look for any indentation, kind of like this one has lava around it. Doesn't always have lava around it, but you can see that this is kind of like an asteroid hit the Earth. Another variation was kind of like this. You can see there's a perfect circle. That was another one. And then a third one was kind of like this. This is, it just ran into the ground, and that's actually the asteroid right there. So that's how I'm finding these, just looking at my map and exploring around. As you can see, I've explored a lot of this area, and there's about 3 that I've found so far. So you might have to explore a pretty good amount. There might even be another one right there. So you can see that's how I'm picking them out and just venturing over there to find them. Perfect. And this one actually had 3 of them inside. I don't think I've ever seen 3 inside of a chest, but figured I'd pass that information along. And we have some extra engineering silicon ones like that. If you're playing on a server and you trust the people on the server, it'd be worth asking to maybe borrow one of these guys to just start making different items, stuff like that if you're earlier on into the game. But make sure you trust those people. You don't want them to kill you. But yeah, we got all 4 of these guys. I don't think we'll need to hunt for these guys once again. And I think it's time to head back to our machines. All right, so we've set up our next part of the system. All it is that I'm just taking our silicon, putting it onto a depot, and then using a deployer to press down an inscriber silicon press onto our silicon. So I throw it in there, gonna press down, and turn into a printed silicon, which is our next step. So our next step is kind of like how we've ended all of our assembly processes with the sequence assembly line. So we're going to need 2 printed silicons. We're going to need a flash drive. It says it's not consumed in the assembly process. It's going to take our inductive mechanisms from chapter 3 and turn them into calculation mechanisms. And it says main assembly finale. So we are really, really getting into the final, because I think that means that our main assembly line is complete. Granted, I've not connected any of my assembly lines. Maybe I'll do that in the next episode. If not, if you're watching along, feel free to start connecting all of them. But for me, I've just kind of separated them into chunks, depending on if I really need to create them all. But that will lead us into creating an ME controller with a Fluix casing, which doesn't look, yeah, this is actually not really that bad. Which will then bring us into express circuitry and things like that. So let's go ahead and work on that. All right, it looks like we are actually good to go. So all I did was just take out where these printed silicon is going to be outputted. It's going up to our brass tunnels up here. Same system we've done in multiple episodes now, where it's going to fall down into chutes. This splits it, so some of the printed silicon goes in the first deployer, some of the second one. We have a flash drive just sitting in the third one because it's not consumed. And then if we put our inductive mechanisms in here, they'll wait until there's printed silicon. It should go ahead and convert into our final mechanism. So let's go ahead and throw these guys into here. They should go ahead and split, begin to press, just like so. We'll probably only have one actually properly go through the system. And that turns into a calculation mechanism. And to end this off, we're going to go ahead and make a ME controller, which the way we do that is a Fluix casing in the center, calculation mechanisms on the outside, And that turns an ME controller. We got the networking switchboard advancement, which we can go ahead and claim all of these lovely, basically end bonuses. And that brings us into Express Circuitry 1 and Express Circuitry 2, which let's go ahead and jump into that. All right, it's time to make these printed engineering, logic, and calculation circuits. It's a new day in real life, but I took some time to kind of look at the best way to do this, because I did build a system using this blast chiller, but you need about, give or take, 7 diamonds to make one of these guys, versus if you set it up in a, what is this called? Yeah, in a foundry, then you just need 1. 1 diamond equals 1 printed engineering circuit, but you do have this option if you have an abundance of materials at this point. You are going to need all of the inscriber engineering circuits, or presses, inscriber logic press, the inscriber engineering press, and the inscriber calculation press. You need all 3 of those in order to make these 3 different types. And then you'll need a diamond, a piece of gold, and a piece of copper. Now, what I've done is set up this system here, which is a system we've used a couple videos ago. What we have to do here, if I open up our foundry, is one, we'd have to put our materials in here, which I've already done. So we have exactly 1 diamond, 1 gold ingot, 1 copper ingot. However, we need our temperature to be, I believe it's above like 1450 degrees Celsius. So blazing blood is actually 1500 degrees Celsius. A couple different ways you could get that. What I did is I just put blaze rods into our foundry with lava, had that burn, and then I used a scorching drain with a scorched faucet to output it inside of a fluid tank inside of Create. And then I manually just pumped it back into a scorched fuel tank once I removed the lava version and put an empty one inside. And that gave me blazing blood, which is a hotter temperature, allowing us to actually melt diamonds and things like that. So once we've done all 3 of those, I've just put down some seared casting tables with our calculation press, our logic press, our engineering press, and these are hooked up to scorched ducts. This allows us to add filters via copper cans, something we've done before. So this one has diamond, so engineering diamond. The logic one has gold, and then the calculation one is copper. And then you can use these levers with the scorched faucets to turn them on or off. So to start off, we'll flick this lever on. We'll let it go ahead and press into itself really quick. There we go. And it turns to a printed engineering circuit, and you keep the engineering press as well. So let's go ahead and try the next one, and we'll also try the copper one. And that has given us a printed logic circuit and a printed calculation circuit. So if we check our quests, we've now completed this step, and our next step, because this is still the beginning process of a AE system, is we now need to make them all into processors. So let's go over to that system. All right, so this is how we're gonna go ahead and make these guys into processors. So it's a little bit of a unique system, but once it's set up, it's pretty easy. So what we have here is we have our printed silicon going out onto a belt. We have a deployer pushing down, and depending on what type of circuit you want to make, you're just going to go ahead and put the one in the hand here. Then you need a spout with liquid redstone, or no, destabilized redstone, and then you need a press. And then once it goes through that entire sequenced assembly, it will go ahead and just put it into a chest over here. So as far as most of this machine, not too hard to create, except the destabilized redstone, because there is a lot of different options that you can choose from. So you can melt, which honestly, looking back on it, might have been a little bit easier, but I decided to just build a foundry just because it would allow it to hold more of a larger capacity. Because you could just literally put redstone in there, creates destabilized redstone, and then you can output that into tanks, things like that. I first started with a magma crucible, but the problem that you run into is you need 72,000 RF per block of redstone, which is a ton of energy. And I didn't really see the need for that. If you just build a foundry, it's a lot easier. You can also use a mixer with charged Certus quartz crystals and volatile sky solution. I believe we actually did this way back in one of the first chapters, so there's a chance that you might have your destabilized redstone saved somewhere, and you can just use it for this as well. And then, of course, you can item drain it if you've picked it up with a bucket. But the system I went for is I actually just built a foundry, which it's all outputted here. So let's go ahead and get some more redstone. So all we do is go to our foundry, throw our blocks of redstone inside. We just have lava, just burning that. And then if we hop up over here, you're going to see that we have a scorched drain connected to a scorched faucet. Below that, we then have scorched channels that are then outputting into the fluid tanks. You'll see that once our redstone melts, it's going to immediately pour out of our faucet, fall into our channel, and then pour directly into our fluid tank, which will then just be held in here until it's eventually needed, where it will be pumped out of a mechanical pump and placed into a spout. Pretty sweet little situation going on here, because then you can just throw redstone in here whenever you need it, and it will fill up this tank, and you should be good to go. So let's give it a shot. We're going to throw our engineering circuit in here. It's going to press once, and then it should keep moving. Why did it move? Well, it works now. I don't know why it didn't. I don't know why it did that. I think it glitched out because it was sitting there the whole time. But as you can see, it went through all three and that worked. Let's try this with a logic one. Oops, didn't mean to set a filter. Put the logic on it. It presses once. There you go. It gets shot with the spout and then gets pressed. And we could try this one with the copper one as well. It goes once, gets shot, and then gets pressed. And that should go into here in just a second, where we can grab both of these guys, and we've now made a logic processor, a calculation processor, and an engineering processor. So all of these guys are checked out, and that is the end of chapter 4. So if we go to our overview, you can see we've got our Fluix machinery up and running. We still have to do chaotic alchemy, which we'll probably go ahead and tackle in the next episode. Then we have divide by digital, which is the finale, and then we have to a spacefarer. So we are really close to actually finishing this mod pack on out. Don't know why the Into the Box changed its logo here, but it looks like we're actually doing pretty good. Probably beginning of next video, I'll set up an ME system, show you how that all works. Really quick tutorial that you can just skip over if you don't care about too much. But we now can make logic processors, calculation processors, and engineering processors, allowing us to make that entire system. But other than that, I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.